and the reality is, all I really care about is wind speed, okay? But if you guys want to grab one of these, and before we spill hot, just, step out there, kind of get an average wind speed. Are you still shooting 673, James?
Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today's video is mostly about how to clean your long range rifle system from Gunwerks. I recently became a Gunwerks rifle owner. Bought a 6.5 Creedmoor in a Magnus and a 7 PRC in the Nexus platform. So it's very important for me to keep my gun barrel clean and then to get the maximum performance out of it. And luckily we had the LRU team here in Kansas with us here just outside Greensburg, Buffalo Nickel Lodge. And yeah, the guys, Jeremy Winters and Mr. Brian Poor, they were here teaching a class, and I was fortunate enough to film everything to get it back to you guys and myself to remember how to take care of that barrel. So yeah, let's see, hopefully you guys enjoy this video. I'm going to try and bring a little bit more of that, especially with the Gunwerks rifles, just because I have absolute passion for them. It's an amazing rifle system, and you guys will see to find that in this video. So yeah, we are, like I said, we are outside Greensburg, Kansas, Buffalo Nickel Lodge. We've got a 1 mile range here with 20 North American full-size AR-15, AR-500 targets scattered all over the place. And yeah, it's a long-range paradise. If you're on your way to the west and you want to stop by and get your gun ready for elk season, come give us a call. All right, hopefully you guys enjoy this video. I'm going to try and get some more uploaded and do some more shooting.
A couple things, or one thing we didn't talk about is this little cool device right here. It's a patch trap. I recommend it to everybody. Especially if you clean indoors. It goes right on the end of your barrel. Oops, don't lay these out. Goes on the end of your barrel, it just tightens on there. A couple advantages to this. I can add the solvents down at this end instead of having to add the solvents down here where I can drip them on my stock where I touch my face and stuff like that. So I like putting my solvents on down here. And then you can close the trap, and it closes anything, because when you run your brush out the end, you'll see a little mist that comes out, and that can get everywhere. So I like these patch traps. Midway sells them. They're like 10, 15 bucks. I really recommend them, okay? So one of the first things we need to do to cover, before we start cleaning this is in this whole gun right here, okay, what's the most sensitive part on it? Nope, got the whole system. Okay, what part of the scope? And the coatings attached to it, right? Do solvents and coatings mix? Nope, you get solvents on there and you take those coatings off, I guarantee the quality of your view downrange goes down in a hurry. Okay, so we need to keep it off of there. So we send you one of these handy things. If you don't hunt with it, that's fine, but it should be left in your cleaning kit, okay? The other thing is you'll get in a hurry one of these days, and I've done it a couple times, and you'll pop that brush and it'll come too far out the back, and then you'll hurry and try to stab it back in, and you'll break your lens, okay? I ruined 2 F1 Night Forces that way. Just getting in a hurry. So it protects the lens on this side from popping out and going back in, okay? The other thing we're gonna need, this is that universal bore guide. So you loosen this little handle and it slides up and down. And this just slides in the back of the action here, goes in and seats where the cartridge goes, and then you just slide that forward into where the bolt knob is, and then you tighten it where the bolt knob is, and that's what holds it in place. So I like this one because you can do a bunch of different calibers with just the one device, okay? All right, what was the process? What are our numbers?
60, 40, 20.
60, 40, 20. So we're just gonna run a brush in there, and we're gonna run our KG1, which is our carbon remover, And I just want to give it a good saturation. Now on this one, you'll notice we've got our suppressor cover on here. If we had a muzzle brake on here, or you weren't running a suppressor, you had your muzzle brake on here, you'll notice that it gets a lot of carbon buildup as well. But there's no real easy way to clean it. So what I do is while I'm cleaning the carbon here, I'll just give it a little squirt.
Would you remove the muzzle brake as well?
No, leave it on. Yep. I like leaving the muzzle brake on because it centers the brush, and you don't rub your rod on the bottom of the crown as you're pulling it back. The brush centers in the muzzle brake and gets it started back in your barrel more even. So I leave it on, but you'll notice after you shoot your muzzle brake, it'll have black sides to it. So what I do is while I'm brushing the inside of the barrel out, I'll just put a little KG1 on there. And then when I'm done, I'll spray a little carb cleaner on it and it'll just wipe right off because it's pretty much superficial because there's not a lot of pressure there because it's not inside the barrel. So it doesn't stick very hard, okay? The suppressor stuff sticks a little harder, but you'll see, you know, I saturated a little on there. You'd be amazed how much will come off in the next 5 minutes, okay? So we saturate the brush. It looks nice and wet and glistening. And then this is a cold barrel, so I'll get 20 out of it. So we'll run in here and we'll do 20 quick strokes. And then once we do 20, we'll resaturate, another 20, resaturate. Try to knock 60 out here. When you get really good at this, you do it sidearm so you don't tear your rotator cuff out. Resaturate again. You can actually, I don't know if you can hear it, but you can feel the brush getting easier and easier. You can feel the carbon coming out of that bore, especially if you run a pretty tight brush. You can see on the rag, we're already starting to get some carbon out of it. And so that's the carbon that would normally embed into the softer coatings on those on the softer rods. So.
Would this gun have been cleaned recently, or did it?
No, this is one of your guys' guns you were shooting yesterday.
I mean, would it have been prior to yesterday? Would it have been?
Yeah, we didn't clean it at the California course, so. Yeah, so it's probably got, there's probably 300 or 400 rounds in it right now. Okay, I'll just give the rod a good wipe down. You can see all the carbon that's coming out. And so what we're doing is we're essentially just getting carbon out of about 90% of the barrel. That stuff in the throat's probably still in there because it's too hard. Now, when using patches, there's a trick to this. Does anybody know the trick to not sticking a patch in your barrel? First question, are patches really made to be patches? No, these are t-shirt and sheet remnants. So what you'll notice is if you look through your patches, they're all different thicknesses. So you could have the right jag and the right rod for the right bore size and stick one in there. And trust me, when you have to take a hammer and pound it on through to get it in there and then take the jag off and pull it back through, it makes you pretty nervous. So the trick is on your first one, to check the size, you always go towards one of the corners. And what that does, it puts less pressure on one side, makes it easier to go down, just in case it's a tight one, right? And that one went down really easy. It would have went right in the middle. But just to be sure, because it happens quite a bit, because they're all different sizes. There's a few patch companies that make them just as patches that are super high quality, but they're also really expensive as well. So most guys don't use them because they're 10 times the cost. Okay, so we'll go right back in, and we've got our KG1 done, and the next one's our copper, which is our KG12. So we're gonna run 40 of this. The copper one's easy to see because it got a little orange tint to it there. We're just going to go right back in and do the same thing. Resaturate that brush really good. And then we'll do 20.
Do you ever spray that brush down with brake clean between the two?
Not in between the KG1 and 12. Nope. You'll notice if you look at the brush, it's not reacting or anything. If that would, like, if you had two solvents that were reacting, it was like turning foamy or something, then I probably would. Just because the reaction is probably taking away from its effectiveness. But these two, because they're water-based, they're pretty inert anyway, and so I've never had to do that. And KG12, the copper cleaner, is the fastest copper cleaner on the market. There are a couple on the carbon side. Have you guys seen the wipeout foam that you can spray in there? They have a foam you can spray in there for for copper, you just spray it in and you leave it overnight and you come back the next day and patch it out. Works really good, but it just takes a long time. They have a carb out too that actually works a little better than this KG1, but you have to spray it in and let it sit for at least 2 hours. So if you have a lot of time, those are pretty nice. We use them at the school. We'll just foam everything up at night, and then the next morning we can just patch it all out and they're ready to roll again. So we use that stuff sometimes, but the copper solvent is definitely the KG12 copper solvent is definitely the fastest copper remover out there. Okay, and then one dry patch. Oh yeah, these are thin patches. Okay, now we're going to go in and the last step of the process here. So the bore polish. So it's grit suspended in oil. So what's the first thing we should do? I had a customer called me up several years back. Bolt lock shut had a carbon ring, right? So 60-40-60, and then call me back. So a couple days later, called me back. Nope, did it again. First shot, locked the gun up. I'm like, oh man, he went way too long on this, right? So I said, don't do 60-40, just go right back in and do 120 with the grit, you know, in that first 3 to 4 inches. And he calls me back and he said, nope, did it again. And I'm just like scratching my head like, holy crap, how's this gun not blowing up? I'm like talking to him like, we need to probably bring this in. And, you know, I just kind of light bulbed me and I was like, hey, did you shake that up? And there's this long, awkward pause. He hadn't shook it up, so he's just squirting oil on the brush the whole time. It hadn't removed one bit of copper. So shake it up. You'll notice it's a little, it's like a pasty looking stuff. Sticks to the brush really well. So we'll just put it on that brush. Now you can do it on a patch as well, but the patch is pretty aggressive. I like doing it on the brush because it's just not so aggressive. We'll pull it all the way back through until you feel it pop out in the chamber, right there. It popped out into the chamber, and what I do is I'll just mark a spot on my chest, and then I'm just going to give it that first 3 to 4 inches right there, okay? And then we don't want to reintroduce this, so watch your eyes. I'm just going to spray it into this trash can. Good as new. Breaks it out of there really good. Okay, now I can't run a patch through there, but what I'll do is I'll put my cleaning rod on here, or my nozzle. Then it's nice because you can just put it in the back of the bore guide. Tip my barrel down a little bit. Then I can just watch that solution coming out the other end. Is it clear? Yeah. See how it's clear now? So I got the big stuff out. Now I can just run 3 to 5, about 3 dry patches, and the bore's clean. So quick process, works very well. And then this gun's almost ready to go. Okay. Oops. Okay, so this is nice because it trapped all your fluid in there. And then all we have to do is take it over, dump it in there. If you guys do have one of these, you'll notice they start to get pretty nasty on the inside. Just some Dawn dish soap in the sink because they're water-based. It'll break all, it'll look new every time. Okay, so you can just clean that out really, really well. Okay, so I'm gonna take a good rag. And then remember I squirted a little bit of that carb cleaner on the end of this suppressor adapter just to get some of that carbon that builds up on there off. I'm gonna take carb cleaner, I'm just gonna spray it off. And then I'm just gonna work that off of there. You can see it actually does a pretty good job even though we're not brushing it. It stays active long enough to get a good. So if you guys have our suppressors, you'll notice, see this little beveled edge right here? That's the seal, okay? So that little beveled edge right there, the same bevel, the opposite bevel is in the suppressor. That's the part we want to keep clean because if you get any carbon buildup there, then they don't come together and you leave a little gap. And then gas with carbon can get into the threads, and that's where you lock them together when you don't get a good seal here. So I always check and make sure this is clean, and if you look inside the suppressor, you can actually see that little shiny rim inside there. That's the seal in there. So I always like to take my rag that has a little bit of the carb cleaner on it, and I'll just run it in, my finger up against that seal, and just make sure that I have a shiny edge all the way around without a black spot going clear through it, which means that it has the thing. You can see that little shiny edge in there. Just want to make sure that that touches completely with this, okay? If you have a muzzle brake, just do the same thing. Clean it off, and then it'll look good as new, okay? Take this off now because we don't need it. Okay, so our bore guide,
On the muzzle brake, don't remove the muzzle brake, just clean it off, you said.
Yeah.
Because don't some of them have that crimp fitting on it, with the compression like ring on it, and they tighten it?
If they have alignment problems, there's a brass washer, or could be a washer in there, but hopefully you don't have those, because those are problematic anyway, because over time they squish, and then you keep having to adjust it, add more shims. But you could still take it off, because the shims will stay on the barrel. Put it back on. Just make sure you don't forget the shims. Most, like our muzzle brakes have that lock collar. It doesn't have a shim, it has that lock collar, so you can put it on and then rotate it to where you want, and then lock that collar in. It takes the place of having to do shims. So, yeah, but if you have them, then do it that way, okay? All right, so the bore guide kept it out of you can see the top of the trigger right there, and then out of our mag box, there. Those are the two sensitive places that can hold up feeding. But where that chamber, if you remember the shape of the chamber, where those shoulders are on the cartridge, there's a little puddle in there now on the bottom of that shoulder. So we just need to get out. And so this is the chamber mop that I was talking about. Depending on your caliber, just go buy some shotgun mops, little 410 or like a big Magnum's, like a 20 gauge. Obviously Tipton and those guys will sell you one for $10, but you can buy them for like the shotgun ones for a couple dollars a piece. And they have the same thread they screw on. Tipton makes an action cleaning kit. So it has this and then the bolt lug and a brush if you want to just buy the whole kit. But either way, we need to mop that out. Now we don't need any solvent or anything in there. We've already have some solvent when I sprayed it down in there. So we just need to mop it out to make sure there's no debris or anything left in there. And see, there was quite a bit of stuff in there. So we want to get that out. And then we need to clean out, and this is probably the most important part. So it's called the lug recess, okay, or where the lug abutments, where they go. So when you put your bolt in, they're horizontal, and then when you close it, they go vertical, okay? So those lug abutments, they collect a lot of carbon in that area. And if you don't clean it out, what happens over time is the carbon wears away at the back of these bolt lugs. And this bolt face is what creates the alignment of the cartridge down in there. So if I remove metal on one side, it creates an angled condition, and your gun will quit shooting really fast. And then you have to send it back to us, and we have to what's called relap the lug. So we put some lapping compound on there. We lap them until they both touch the same again, and then send it back to you, okay? So we need to be able to move that out of there, and so this action cleaning toolkit has one of these, and they're just the little swabs that your dentists use. You can buy them from a bunch of different places for a couple dollars for 100 of them. They come in the Tipton kit if you want them. Just roll them into place, and it makes a little T, okay? So you're going to put that T in there where the bolt lugs go, and you're going to push it all the way in until it stops. Now I'm up against the chamber where the bolt lugs go, and then I'm just going to spin it round and round. And we're just cleaning out those big, nasty chunks that are in there. And you'll see that there's amazingly a lot of carbon that gets left in there, and that's very abrasive. So that's, right now, yesterday, that was grinding away. You can see how much black carbon's on the back there. It was grinding away on the back of that bolt face, okay? So you guys want to keep that clean. This one, we can spray off with carb cleaner and reuse and reuse and reuse, okay? This one we throw away. It gets embedded in there. Carb cleaner won't get it off, okay? Because it gets embedded in that cotton or whatever it is. So we just throw these away after a use. And now the gun is all clean, okay? But I want to talk about this bolt for a little bit, okay? So remember how I said we created that field strippable bolt, okay? And this is very important because, if you get on a nasty wet hunt, or the boat oar or anchor that I had to use my rifle for, or the one that usually gets most guys, especially in Wyoming, is the antelope season. 80 degrees, super hot, and you know that fine dust where you have like a sealed rifle case that's supposed to be waterproof, and you open it up and there's dust inside and you're like, where the heck did that come from? That dust is a killer here, okay? And so the way you do it is you just grab the bolt body, you grab the shroud, and you turn it clockwise a quarter of a turn. And it disengages and we can pull it right apart. And you can see all the carbon and garbage on the very end of that starting to stack up in there. That's from just the normal use of everything working its way back through that bolt face. So eventually you can see it start, this is that tapered part I was talking about. It's starting to get on that tapered part. If you get dirt there, it'll hold up the firing pin and you'll get a light strike. So we want to just wipe this down really good. We don't want it to have any dirt on it. If you're back at the shop and it's pretty nasty, you could carb clean it off. Do we want to add any lubrication to this? No, guys, we want to run this dry. It's the same reason if we get it wet in a cold climate, we want to take it apart and dry it off. It'll freeze, you know, and any kind of oil or lubrication will collect dust and make that problem worse, okay? So you clean your bolt body off, or your bolt firing pin off, and then we need to clean our bolt body off as well. You notice it's not nasty, covered in a bunch of garbage. Actually, this one's pretty bad. I'm going to spray it off. Little carb cleaner breaks that down, because we do put lubrication on the outside of this, okay? In one spot in particular. Okay, and that spot is the back of these bolt lugs, okay? We don't want to run them dry, because that's 60,000 PSI of pressure that's holding that back. That gets transferred right here, and so you can actually turn them enough that what happens is it galls it, and it starts to move metal. So I'm going to pass this around. I want you guys to look at it. The lug on the bolt handle side is starting to gall, and you'll be able to see that there's these little lines that are starting to show up. What's happened is we've worn through the hard coating and we're starting to move metal. So my guess is this bolt probably has another month of service, and it'll probably stop shooting. It will probably, because we're moving material off of one more than the other, and we'll probably have to lap it up. Okay, so this one's starting to get to that point. You never want to see those lines going across, because that means I think it's an NP3. It's a hardened coating that's on the outside of those. That means that we've worn through that because we didn't clean those out good enough. We've worn through it, and it's starting to actually move the metal on the bolt head there. Okay, and that hardened coating is kind of what protects the outside of it. So to go back together, you'll notice that there's two little divots on each side. They're different sizes, so it can only go in one spot. Okay, one's bigger than the other. And it looks like it goes right there. So when it goes back together, it goes down until you hit the cocking piece right here. So this is where the firing pin tension comes from. So the easiest way to do it is I'll take 3 fingers and I'll put it on the bolt handle. I'll put the palm on that, and we need to depress it. Okay, so depress it and then turn it. There's a little divot in the bottom of your bolt. That's the start position, okay? So when you take it apart, you'll put it back together. It'll only go in one way because they're different sizes, and then grab it in your hand, depress it, and turn it to the little divot, okay? Some guys go too far, or when they take it apart, they go the wrong way. They'll go into the fired position. That's fine. All you have to do is just go back the other way. It turns both ways, so just be aware of that. Okay, so we need to lubricate the back of both these lugs. So we'll take a little bit of this Lucas grease, and I really like this Lucas stuff. You know, they build oil for diesel engines and things like that, but they have a gun line, and their lubrication line is legit. And the reason I like this stuff is it goes from -20 to 572 degrees. Okay, so where's the hottest part of the whole gun? Right there, right where this is, right? So you need a good temperature stable grease there. So we'll put that in there. Now, there's a trick to getting it to go down into the lug abutments, okay? If you leave the firing pin spring pressure on, when you close the bolt, it wipes all the grease off, and it doesn't get it down to where we want. So the trick is to pull the trigger, hold it back, and then when you close the bolt, you'll notice it just drops. There's no more tension anymore. And then you can get it down there. So if you don't hold the trigger, you'll notice that there's pressure all the way down, and it just wipes the grease off. Okay, so if you pull the trigger, it'll just fall. It releases that pressure. It lets you get that lube down into where you need it, you know, where it's not galling down in there. Okay, so the trick there is just pull that trigger, you know, work it a couple times. It'll get that lubrication down in there where you need it, and it should should function really well for you. Okay, any questions? Okay, I'll pack up my stuff, get it out of your way, grab a chronograph, and then we'll shoot this next little bit here.
Regardless of where that first shot impacts at 100 yards, you know, because I think their cold bore shot from this clean barrel was in the groove. But the the wild card there, the 100 yards doesn't show us is what the velocity of that first shot is. Okay, so I was running the chrono, you know, for both shooters on this. So that cold bore shot after we cleaned it, velocity was 25.85. Okay, so remember that number. I'm going to delete it. And then the average, once I delete that shot, the average of everything else, 26.39. So 55 feet per second, slower than the average of the remaining 9 shots. Okay, so even though it hit at 100, what would happen at 800? It'd been well over a minute low. Yeah. You know, so that's one more reason why, 2 things. Number one, what Jeremy taught you about sealing the muzzle, casing in the chamber, you know, the moisture in the barrel will do the same thing. You know, so it'll basically lubricate that barrel, lower pressure, and you get lower velocity. And then, you know, I was tinkering, you know, trying to figure out, hey, how do we get that velocity up to the same speed as everything else? And I'm like, well, what happens if I put a light coat of oil in the barrel? You know, that one was 150 feet per second slow. You know, so any lubrication in the barrel actually slows the bullets down.
All right, just wrapping up our first Long Range University here at Buffalo Nickel in Greensburg, Kansas. It's been a wonderful class. First came out here about 1.5 years ago and immediately knew that we had to do a Long Range University here. It's a great location. The amenities, the facility, the range are all top notch. I think everybody's enjoyed their time outside of the shooting. Inside, we've had some great food, great conversations. It's been a wonderful time.